Greetings everybody and welcome. Today I wanted to do a quick unboxing of this bad boy here. This has been out for a little bit, but I was out at my local Barnes & Nobles spending some holiday gift cards and found this on the shelf, and I was not actually tracking that this one came out. I'm a big fan of the Undaunted series, which I'll talk about here in a second. But saw this Undaunted Battle of Britain and decided to do a quick unboxing video on this to kind of show you what's in this. Now again, for those unfamiliar with what the Undaunted series is, Undaunted is a tile board game type setup published by Osprey Publishing with David Thompson and Trevor Benjamin as the creators. It was first released in 2019 as Undaunted Normandy, which took you obviously through the fight for Normandy, again using a tile-based system. Each token card represented one individual on the battlefield. Then in 2020 they released Undaunted North Africa. North Africa obviously took you to the fight in North Africa with the LRDG, some SAS, against obviously Germans, Italians, that kind of stuff, and it actually for the first time introduced vehicles, and actually introduced that each tile then became a full squad on the table, so it interacted a little bit differently. From there, this was then released in 2023, I believe in September of 2023. This was released, or maybe earlier 2023, I think June, July maybe. And this is Battle of Britain, aerial combat, which I'm kind of, again, I'm not familiar with this one, so I'm intrigued to open this up and take a look. Then in 2022 introduced Stalingrad, which was a much larger box set, and introduced a concept dealing with a campaign where the tiles and the terrain actually diminished as the gameplay took place based off of the Battle of Stalingrad, and again was a much larger, heavier box set. And then in late 2023 they released reinforcements, and the revised edition reinforcements, which fixed I believe they had some misspellings on it and brought the cards, I guess the color was a little bit off in the card and they weren't happy with that, so they released a revised edition in 2023 for reinforcements. That allowed you to, and I should backtrack a little bit here, so Undaunted is played as again a tile-based type board game with you and one other opponent. It is set up that you can play single one-off matches with it, or you can play a campaign scenario with it. So again, from experience in the Undaunted Normandy book, as you're going through the scenario 1 through 2 through 3 through etc., they introduced a little bit of new elements each time you played a scenario to kind of get used to the game, so you could play them in sequential order with a buddy, just as one-off games to learn the system, or you could actually play it as a campaign style. So options for either or, and that went through North Africa. Stalingrad brought in some other unique aspects, because for their campaign play, again, these are tile based, so each tile would have like a defensive position, and certain scenarios tell you exactly how to set the tiles up. Well, with Stalingrad, because for the fight for Stalingrad it was block to block and it was back and forth, the tiles actually, the tiles that have buildings and street fighting and city fighting, as you play through the campaign, actually become more and more of ruins because of the destruction of the Battle of Stalingrad. So as you play, some defensible positions may actually be downgraded. Some areas where you could possibly go through become inaccessible because of rubble and that kind of stuff. So it added a whole nother aspect into the campaign game of it. Again, I did not know about this, and I wasn't actually tracking this, so I did not want to watch any videos on it, so I'm not quite sure how this plays out, and we're going to look into that a little bit. But then what reinforcements did was it added an option and some rules to be able to do solo play on any of those other board game setups. So you could go back and play Normandy with a solo, with like an AI type thing. It added a few more different units and elements. I know I think for North Africa it added a couple more LRDG units, things of that nature, so you could kind of go back and play through them again, so it gave you a different feel when going through and playing that. They have released also in 2024 Undaunted 2200, which is a sci-fi aspect of this game. I'm not familiar with that game at all. I've never actually seen it on the shelves anywhere. I may order from Osprey just because I'm kind of curious how that plays out, and I love the Undaunted series. But that's out there as well, so it looks pretty interesting. So again, we're going to do a quick unboxing of this. Many of you have probably seen this before if you're familiar with the Undaunted series. I know, again, when I did a quick search on it, there's already YouTube videos of how to play through it, solo play, that kind of stuff. But I want to get something up on the page, and I wanted to take a look at this because, again, it's a great series. I'm going to talk a little bit more about why myself and the club love this game series as we go through here, and maybe a little bit at the end. So let me get the shiny plastic off it so we can see it a little better, and then we'll take a look at the back of this. I'm trying a new light setup that I got for Christmas, so hopefully there's not too much glare, and if there is glare, it comes off when this plastic comes off. And try not to shake the table too much. Get rid of that. So there we go, fresh and clean. So on the back here you'll see obviously a little bit of an explanation of it. The Battle of Britain, of course, and big aerial combat. I will say what I'm really excited about this is us in the club, especially Eric and I and a few others, really love Blood Red Skies, which is Warlord Games aerial skirmish combat. So I'm kind of curious to see, and there's a Battle for Britain starter set with that you can get, so I'm curious to see how this plays out. But you can see there's a tile-based setup, shows you kind of how the cards work. It says contents, and I'm going to try to read this while I'm looking at it here. 116 cards, 31 large map tiles, 4 dice, 58 tokens, and the scenario booklet. So pretty good haul in this. Now what I'm curious is, it does say 14 and up, 45 to 60 minutes to play for 2-player as a versus type game. Again, that's when it first came out. The reinforcements kind of changed a little bit. What I'm curious about this is with the scenario booklet, if you get how-to instructions with it as well. I'm pretty sure you do, because these are all meant to be standalone. So again, I don't know what you would call this kind of style of artwork. It's almost comic book-esque, or like graphic novel-esque, but it's the same artwork through all the way through. Unfortunately, I don't know who the actual artist is for this. I might actually do some research and hopefully put it up at the bottom of the line here. But really cool art style throughout this entire Undaunted series. Do this without, boom, destroying everything. So there we go. So I'm going to kind of slide this off to the side here, and we're going to take a look piece by piece as we go through this. So first up we have the rule book. So here you go. Here are the rules on how to play. Again, it takes you through the components. It takes you through what all symbols on the card mean, how to set it up. Again, the different tiles. So this book is very easy to read. You may have to read a paragraph once or twice to kind of fully understand what it's saying, but never had an issue with the Undaunted series, and even when I kind of show it to a new guy and we start playing, it's picked up very quickly. So the different actions, what the different things you can do. Again, very thin rule book, but all inclusive. And then here we have the scenario book. So sorry, I'm trying to not get the glare of my new light set. But it takes you through the different scenarios, the RAF, the Luftwaffe. This I won't get into too much, but this is the cool thing of, with each scenario that you're playing, it'll tell you exactly what cards you do, because it is a deck building game as well. I should have said that to begin with. So it's tokens on the board, but it's a deck building game in your hand. That actually how you activate the different units and go from there. So depending on the scenario you're playing, it will tell you exactly what cards you should have. So here we go, like for starting cards, what you should get, and then cards that you can have in the deck and supply, which is a game mechanism of what you have. Supply that you can call up as reinforcements, and what actually is in your initial deck. So each scenario will tell you exactly how you build. So, for example, I'll just keep it on this one here. Scenario 3, when bombs first fell, it'll tell you exactly how you set up the tiles. It'll tell you exactly where the planes all start, and it'll tell you exactly what cards should be in your deck and supply for each side, and go from there. So really easy. If you have certain land tiles, it tells you which ones it is. These are interesting because normally in the other game systems, it's 1 tile per. This looks like they actually have, because it's just a lot of, obviously, C. that you can see that it's multiple tiles put together, so it's pretty easy. So there's a little bit of puzzle building in the beginning. There's a little bit of setup time with these games, but once you get through and kind of going, not a whole lot. So going through here, there's scenario 8, scenario 9, 10, and 11. So a total of 11 scenarios. That's a big fight right there. So 11 scenarios to play through. Seem pretty interesting. Let me just go through here. Illustrated by Roland McDonald. I wonder if that's who did the artwork as well, or just the illustration on the book. But yeah, takes you through how to play. I don't know. I just wanted to look here. So there is a campaign play as well. So the cool thing with the you can go through the scenarios, like I said, 1 through 11, I think I said 10 or 11, and play each scenario separately. Or as a campaign, you can actually go through and keep track of your pilots, how well they did, shoot down any pilot, any pilots that you lose, that kind of stuff. So it gives you options for a whole campaign play, which is really cool. And then we get into a lot of these here. So the tokens. So here are what the tokens look like. So again, put it this way so you can actually see it. Excuse me. So you have like your individual land tokens, and it tells you what cover you kind of get on each one. And then it has the planes, which direction they're facing, what their defensive is. Hurricane Ace, Hurricane 2, Hurricane 1. So I'm assuming probably obviously your different pilots can be in different ones for aces, that kind of stuff. But there you have it. They are two-sided. So as these were C on this side, they are land on that side. Same thing with the balloons, over C, over land, right? The camera work. I got to get better at that. Over land. So different stuff there. Another tile set, same thing. We have some land defensives, look like some flak emplacements, air or sea, some ships probably for some bombing scenarios, that kind of stuff. So there you go, some more tokens. These, I do remember, I'm trying to remember in the other game system, so when they have the lines on them like this, I think it's, they're being suppressed, I think. There's a mechanic for that, so you can actually suppress. I know in the infantry you can put like machine gun fire and suppress certain things, and it makes it harder for them to do things. And then here you have another set of tokens, some more planes, and again, so you can see that in these 3 tiles, the amount of planes that you get, that will be all you ever need to play the game. You have a RAF and German Luftwaffe token here that is for I believe initiate, or kind of the initiative of who has proper initiative and on the turns. And then again, more planes and ships. So that's kind of interesting there. And then we get into these tiles. And there's a small stack of them here as well. So these, I'm just going to grab a couple of these real quick here. These are obviously your tiles for when you're building your maps. And again, so when you're dealing with the land specific tiles or city tiles, they have a letter on them, so when you're building them you know which ones go where. If it's just a straight C tile, it's going to show you as like a six tile piece for the C. But again, when you're building them, you're just going to build it however it tells you to build, so on and so forth, to build out your table. Keeps it easy. It's obvious it's a hexagonal game, so there's no measuring in it. Is it a hex? Yes. Look at that, me remembering stuff from school. So it is a hex-based game, so you're not measuring, you're just moving hex at a time. And again, so when you have, like, obviously the sea are all pretty easy. When you're building the land ones, you're going to kind of put them together that they make sense as whatever they tell you they go, to make the ports and land base and all that stuff. So it's pretty easy to set up based off of these tiles. You get quite a bit of them there. Here's some smaller fillers. And then, so for example, when I was building that out, and you kind of have some funky pieces like this, if you need to build like there, and land on the other side. So multi-piece tiles, really cool, enough to build all of the scenarios, and honestly pretty easy if you ever want to use them for other game systems. They're a little bit too big for like BattleTech, but if you have another aerial game, you could always use these if you don't have a land map for hexes, which is kind of cool. Dice, 4 dice. It uses a D10 system. Won't go into that too much, but it does give you the dice to use. Again, most gamers have, tabletop or board game alike, have lots of dice around. But it's always nice to have some in the collection. And this way I don't have to carry around my massive tray of dice every time, because I can keep them right with the game. Which is always nice to include those. And then we have the cards. And I'm going to fight with these a second. And through the magic of editing, you're going to see me have these opened already. Alright, magic of editing. So here are your 2 decks. Obviously the Luftwaffe RAF. Slide one back and take a look here. So in this deck you have all kinds of cards. I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. That's the wrong way. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can kind of see these cards here. So Squadron Comms, and again, I'm not 100% familiar with what all these cards do, so you'll have to work with me a little bit here. But here you can just, for example, see your pilot, which is cool because they're all named, so it kind of gives you that unique feel. It tells you what type of plane they're supposed to be in, what their attacks are, what their maneuvers are, what they move, and then this is, I believe, I think action points to bring them in. I think I have to remember how it plays out. But so here's all of your pilots. So as you're building your decks, it'll tell you which ones you're supposed to put in your hands. It tells you what squadrons they're part of, all that kind of stuff. These are Discord cards. These are basically, the system does have a fog of war mechanic, I guess you can call, in the game system. So for like Normandy, as you're playing and you're building your deck, you have so many of these in your deck. So I think you're supposed to, and again, I haven't played in a while and I didn't really look at the rules, but so as you're building your deck, you have your deck and then you have so many cards in your hand. So as you turn over, if you're getting these or Fog of War card type things in the other Undaunted series, it basically means you have less cards in your hand to play because you have a bunch of these Discord or Fog of War cards. So it starts to limit. There's ways to get rid of these out of your deck, but then you're using action points to get rid of them, so you're maybe not activating as many units, but it kind of helps you clean up a little bit. It's a really cool concept. Fog of War, or some systems call it like a tea break type thing when you're playing like the Two Fat Lardies, for those that play miniatures. But it's a really cool concept to add into games that obviously, as a tabletop player or board game player, you have a god view of everything going on except for obviously what your opponent has in their hands or what they're planning to do. So you can kind of see everything. By adding stuff like this, it gives you the feel of frustration of you can't really activate everything. You can't yell at your little mini tokens and tell them to do exactly what you have planned to win the day, because you may not be able to. There may be some confusion on the battlefield, that kind of stuff. So again, kind of a cool thing, but that's what those are. And again, Squadron Comms, Section Comms, so all these cards let you do obviously specific things. Again, I'm not familiar with this at all, AA, so that's kind of cool. Your ship cards and then all your plane cards. So in the Normandy set, when you're playing with infantry on the table, you have certain cards like your lieutenants where you can do actions with them. They don't actually, lieutenants or even like squad leaders may not be on the board, but they're represented in your deck and allow you to call in reinforcements to reduce your fog of war, to kind of do some other cleanup stuff. So I'm assuming that that's what these cards are for. But again, I love the art style on these cards. The Luftwaffe has quite a bit of a beefier deck. Again, I'm throwing things. My camera work is horrible. One day I'll get professional. So again, Squadron Comms. Same type of card as the RAF, just looks a little bit different again because very unique artwork. Your Section Comms, all that kind of stuff, and then here you go, your BF 109Es. So your different pilots again, all named, so it really gives you a feel. So when you're doing a campaign, you can award pilots, you can keep track of who these guys are, who your aces are. that kind of stuff. Again, all pilots, all pilots. Lots and lots of pilots. Lots of pilots. Bum, 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 bum. And then you discord cards. And again, I keep going back to the Normandy one because that's one I'm really familiar with. When you have infantry that just say, like an infantryman A squad, yes, it has a name at the bottom, so you can kind of keep track of them in your deck, so it makes it kind of feel personal. But the token is just a infantryman in A squad. So when you're calling up reinforcements and you're calling up just a newbie to that squad, like you may have lost Private Snuffy as an infantryman, and so the token goes away, but then now you're bringing back Private Smith, and so that token goes back on. So the tokens are kind of generic just to the squad based, but your new pilots come in. So I'm assuming that's why there's so many more Luftwaffe than there is RAF, because as pilots are shot down, you may lose that pilot, but another pilot will come in on the same type of plane, fly in as reinforcements. So gives you the feel of, you know, personalizing your planes and your pilots when you lose them and that kind of stuff. But the pilot then themselves come in, for example. So BF 109 F2, you would find that plane BF 109-2, and so you'll see that there's multiple pilots that can pilot one of those planes. Well, there's multiple in here, but that's kind of the concept of how it works. Last thing I want to show real quick, because this is always important when it comes to board games, especially when you have a lot of loose pieces, is the box itself that it comes in. One, it's a nice sturdy cardboard box, which is always good, but you have all of the compartments for everything you need. For those who have other board games that take a lot of cards or tile pieces or whatever, that don't have this kind of stuff, you understand how frustrating it can be when you move this around a little bit and you open it up and now all the cards are everywhere. So it does have a spot for everything, even when you actually pop out all the tokens. You see there's extra spacing in here down below where the cards go. So there's plenty of space. You can even throw the dice over on this one side and use the deeper spot for tokens. Is probably how it's supposed to go. But plenty of spots to put all of your token pieces once you pop them out, which we're not going to do right now. But you have that space. So again, it can hold everything you need to hold for, and they even kind of lock in a little bit, so they're not sliding around, which is really good, except for when you dump them in your hands. And then it's a pain. So while I'm cleaning these up, I do want to talk a little bit of why this game is kind of so fun. Obviously, the mechanics of it are pretty cool as far as how it works and how it plays out. But one of the reasons why our club loves this game so much is the fact that you can see that everything fits in this one box and everything transports really well. So when we go to gaming conventions, and we need a break kind of from the con every once in a while, which happens, we always like to bring a couple board games, a couple smaller games that are really easy for transport and really easy to pick up and put down. And this is one that fits pretty easily. Now I do want to look, I don't know if it exactly tells you, but sometimes for scenarios, don't mind me while I read. So it doesn't say exactly, so you'd have to figure it out. But this can be played on, like we have a very small folding table that we bring with us to conventions, and we were able to fit Normandy on that. This may need like a 2x2 or a 3x3 space, but even so, it's not a big space. So this is a game where we will set up in our hotel room on a small table between the two hotel beds, or if we get a suite on the table, whatever it may be. And we'll set this up in the hotel room, so when we need to break from the convention, we can go back and play a couple rounds, play a whole game, whatever it may be. It's really transportable. It's really, again, 45 to 60 minutes to play. I don't know if that includes really setup time. Obviously, some of these games can get pretty involved. But it's a real quick, easy game to play. It's a fun game to play. For me personally, who, although I really enjoy board games, I'm more of a tabletop player, obviously. So this scratches both those itches in a two-dimensional format. So it's a great board game. It's a great kind of card building game and strategy card game, how you're going to play it out, and how, yes, the decks are initially set for you, But as you get those cards and how you're going to play them out to best utilize your hand. And then, of course, it plays out on a tabletop battlefield in the two-dimensional format. So you get a little bit of everything. It scratches all of those itches. I should say that this game itself was $55 for this. I'm not quite sure what some of the other prices are. I know the Stalingrad one is close to $100, if not a little more, because that is a big box. You get a lot of stuff in that. The Normandy one, I think, is right around this price, maybe a little bit more, because this is a bit of a smaller, compact game. But again, they're not bad pricing for what you get with them. So again, it's been out for a while, but I really wanted to put it out again by Osprey Publishing. I know you can find this on Amazon. Again, I found this on a shelf at Barnes & Noble's. Osprey, of course, is a great site to go to for lots of different things. I do recommend Osprey as well. They actually have supported us when I ran a bolt action tournament for Wounded Warriors. It was actually for Pennsylvania Wounded Warriors. I reached out to Osprey, and they actually donated one or two of the Undaunted games. I think one. I think they gave me the North Africa game, and then they gave me a couple other things. But so they're very good to their people. And support good causes, so I will always tell you to go to Osprey because they're a great company. So there you go. Undaunted, Battle of Britain. Take the aerial fights to the tabletop token style. I'm actually really looking forward to maybe now I can get Eric to play a game or two of this just to kind of show you how it plays out eventually. But this is definitely going in my backpack when we pack for Cold Wars is next for gaming conventions we might go to, if not the one in July, Historicon. But there we go. I like to ramble. I'm going to stop rambling. I wanted this to be a short video. It's semi-short. But check out the Undaunted series. If you have the Undaunted series and play multiple ones, put in the comments which ones you like, why, what mechanic you like, that kind of stuff. Maybe even put in the comments what you would like to see Osprey come out with in the Undaunted series next. Again, Normandy they hit North Africa, they hit Stalingrad. I'd be really curious to see what they could do with some of the other theaters of war, and what they could do. But there you go. The obligatory like, subscribe. Obviously, your views, your likes, your subscriptions kind of let me know what people like to see. And they keep our YouTube channel creeping along, hopefully with some big things coming up here shortly. If you watch a lot of my videos, I know I keep continuing to say that, but we've had a lot of movement in the past couple months with the club to try to move some things along. So like, subscribe, make sure you're checking out what we do. Follow us on Facebook. We're on Discord to reach out to us, and all of those good, happy things. So that's it. I hope you all have a good day, and happy gaming.